I sat down in person with games media personality Colin Moriarty to talk about my lifelong doubting faith and the reasons I still hang on to it. Despite being an atheist for many years, Colin said about the interview, out of all the Christian-themed episodes we've done so far, I must readily admit, this one personally made me think about and question my own beliefs the most. You can listen to that conversation right now by following the link below. I hope you enjoy it. We are doing Extra Life again this year, where you can mash buttons, roll dice, play games, and help kids along the way. I hope you'll be a part of that with us. Stick around after the video for more information. Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Welcome to Trial and Error, where I play the first part of a game or a game demo. Usually do that pretty badly and give you my thoughts along the way. This time we're taking a look at Greedfall. Now, the developer on this game also made Technomancer, which looked really cool to me in terms of the world, but ended up really falling flat for me in terms of the gameplay and the combat, especially just the controls there. But word is, the scuttlebutt is, that they've really learned from their past and are really trying to make a game that irons out some of the problems that their past games have had. So I am totally willing to give this developer another chance, especially since this world, what I've seen of it, looks very unique and also pretty drab and dark and brown, you know, which is, I've missed that. I know a lot of people got over browns and grays a long time ago, but I've missed them. So it's good to see them coming back in a game like this. And then also the chance to play in a third-person RPG that's, you know, a big world, not necessarily an open world, but a big world to explore where I can play as a dedicated magic user. That's a little bit more rare than you might think. You know, games like The Witcher 3, you can't really be a full-on mage. You know, not since games like the Dragon Age series have I really felt like I can get that third-person, big world, story-oriented RPG where I can play as a magic user. So I'm looking forward to trying out those systems here. It also apparently has a real-time with pause combat system. Again, something else that's similar to the Dragon Age games. And I love that kind of combat system, dating all the way back to the original Baldur's Gate games on PC and Neverwinter Nights on PC, you know, and of course the Dragon Age games, you know. So I love seeing that combat system whenever it's used. I don't play games for story. I do play them to see how I can interact with the world, how I can affect the world, but I usually prefer to affect the world through my actions rather than my words. I understand that this game is going to be a lot about talking and a lot about interacting with other characters. That might be cool, but those scenarios, especially as BioWare has executed on them, have really fallen short for me because I'm very limited in my dialogue choices. I don't like the illusion of complexity in a conversation that really just amounts to having a limited number of bad dialogue choices, when I really just want to ask a clarifying question that any reasonable person, if they were there, would say, well, wait a minute, what do you mean by this, you know? But no, you can't do that, so you got to choose in ignorance from three dumb options. So in a game like this, where they're heavily leaning on those character interactions as a big selling point of the game, I'm hoping that they can maybe take the trend in a better direction. Fantasy games also often lend themselves to exploring philosophical and spiritual themes, and this certainly looks like it's going to have at least a political kind of vibe to it. I'm not really into political themes, but sometimes there's overlap between political themes and social themes and therefore spiritual themes. So I'm interested to see what the Greedfall writers indirectly have to say about the world and our role in it. Here we go! I always love to see difficulty options in a game. I tend to not be good at games, especially action-oriented games, but in RPGs, I tend to do a little better, you know, in those, especially if I can really take my time and think, as a real-time with pause game should allow, so I'll just start it out on normal difficulty and see how it goes. Oh, I'm kind of torn. I mean, usually when I play as a magic user, I like to be a nasty old wizard named Elderast who just wants to rule the world, but they're not giving me the option to be like an old man. But if I can't be an old man wizard, then as a second option, I will take a younger, cruel, female sorceress kind of character. So let's see if we can make something like that. Oh! Oh, weird. Magical parry. Ow! Okay, I'm trying to read the thing. All right, tactical pause brought up by L1. Okay, so you can activate abilities and items in the tactical pause menu or assign them to like a shortcut. That's nice to give you an option to keep the action moving if you want. Wow, and there are like 12 different shortcut options you can use. That's nice. Oh! Wasn't fast enough! Oh my gosh! Drink the potion! I pushed the button! Oh wait, wrong button. Oh man! I changed the thing! Oh, nice. So enemies have these armor icons that reduce some of the damage that they take to their health unless you're using magic attacks. You can use certain impact weapons or traps to reduce the armor during the fight, but I'm going to be using magic attacks so I can just ignore the armor. That's cool. Oh! Did he get me? I don't think he got me. See, this is not my preference, to just give me a general idea of what I'm going to say, compared to actually showing me the line. Because sometimes the little general summary they give you of what you're going to say doesn't communicate really the tone at all of, you know, the way in which you're going to say it. And sometimes some really important details of what you're going to say are not indicated by this little preview, so that I can find myself, especially in BioWare games, saying something that I would not want my character to say. Alright, well, she's generally going to have a bad attitude, I think, unless she's trying to manipulate people and come across as a good person. So I'll go with this one for now.
I have to admit, I thought my days as a child, complete with bodyguard, were behind me.
Alright, it looks like you can save maybe just about any time you're out of combat, which, that's great. I don't know, there's not, I don't feel like in my head canon I can make her evil and bitter about the state of her mother's health and the fact that she's leaving her mother and her mother's gonna die either way. She can't fix that. I'd like an option in light of that for her to be just bitter toward the world, and even bitter about this mission that she's on to find a cure for her people, when really the much more personal need to cure her mother she can't meet on this quest. So right now, even in the choices I'm trying to make that are a little bit more negative, I'm not sensing a lot of opportunity to really shape her character in a unique way. Whoa! Bad guys! Oh my gosh! I've heard that the game starts out, you know, with some challenge in it, but then potentially later on can just become easy as pie. I think what I'm going to do is dial down the difficulty to easy, and just give myself a little bit more laid-back experience if I can. And one of the things that I come to games for anyway is power fantasy. Oh, a lot less damage. I already like the, you know, the colonial kind of vibe, all the aesthetics that they're drawing inspiration from. It wouldn't normally be my thing or something that I would seek out, but just kind of being in it and being forced to be in it is a nice change of pace from the more traditional fantasy aesthetic. Okay, so this is interesting. So she's part of the royal family, about to go on this mission to this island, this mysterious island discovered not too long ago, that their people are exploring, that may have a cure. So she's going on this peaceful mission representing, I assume, the royal family, but she also has been selected by the church, whatever this church is, what they believe, I have no idea, but she's also kind of representing them on this trip as well. And they definitely seem to have that kind of, you know, medieval, oppressive kind of monotheistic church vibe to them. No surprise in a fantasy RPG. But I don't know anything yet about what they believe. I suspect that I will choose not to be loyal to this brand of religion, whatever it is. Or maybe I will because I'm just nasty.
I've heard say that dissensions have appeared recently in your nation.
Ah, you must certainly be speaking about the debates that have divided the Ordo Luminous and the more political orders. The Lord Luminous has an extremely pure vision of our faith, and applies the words of our saint very strictly. But other, more open-minded factions exist within our nation. They believe that a less rigid dialectic would attract souls more readily to our faith.
Huh.
But their differences are purely theoretical, and do not threaten the cohesion of our nation, I assure you.
So some parallels there, possibly, intended or not, between different forms of Christianity, some that more strictly adhere to the authority and inerrancy of the Bible, and others that it's a little bit telling. He says that they hold basically less strictly to the teachings of their prophet because they believe it will help make the church more appealing to people. And I think as a motive, that's a terrible motive. You might as well just say that the prophet or teacher that you follow isn't really worth following. And that's a motive, we need to watch out for as believers. Are we ever saying, well, this teaching from Scripture was just for those people at the time that it was written, they're not meant to be applied to us today? Are we saying that because exegetically that's what makes the most sense in terms of the interpretation of the document in its original historical and grammatical context? Is that really the best interpretation, or is there a motive in us to say, yeah, this makes me uncomfortable, let's assume that it's just for the people at the time that it was written,
And we have tremendous hopes that the entire native population will join our ranks.
So yeah, they're really setting up this religion as being probably what are the perceived as kind of like the negative parts of Christianity. They're talking about evangelizing this culture that has these pagan beliefs or whatever, and evangelism is something that's very frowned upon in general today. And the evangelism here is being talked about almost using terms of like taking over, The language is just a little bit, has a little bit of forcefulness to it. The focus being on, we want them to join us, join our ranks, Whereas as a Christian, we shouldn't merely want non-believers to become Christians. We should hope that they will come to Jesus, not to our ranks and join our movement or whatever, but come to Jesus.
Which leaves us greater latitude to settle peacefully and pursue our mission of conversion.
So yeah, their mission is not to share Jesus or their prophet with people. Their mission is to convert people, to change people. And I think, unfortunately, that is the perception, possibly earned, of Christianity or some versions of Christianity. The facial animations definitely leave something to be desired. It reminds me of the kind of like the lack of nuance and specificity that would be typical of the 360 PS3 generation of games. In some ways, I could look at this game and believe it was kind of like an up-resed re-release of like a PS3 or Xbox 360 game. But the voice acting is good, I don't have any complaints about that so far. The Foley footsteps show the budget of the game just a little bit, and other Foley sounds, in a more AAA, maybe like a Ubisoft type game, there'd be a little more variation in how the footfalls sound. They definitely change it up when you're going over a different surface, but more of the footfalls on the same surface and in an area sound similar than what I would find in a more big budget game. But it's still very serviceable. It really still, I think, conveys the environment. It's just not quite as earthy and immersive for me. And I love how going in buildings and coming out of buildings does not require a load screen. Bethesda? All right, they're an easy target. I don't mean to be a stinker. Wow. I'm really impressed with both the dialogue writing and the side quest writing and the performances, I mean, there was a scene earlier where we were talking to someone with a Cockney accent that was just, if I really was being critical, just a little bit inconsistent. But what this game makes up for I wouldn't say that inconsistent accents are like a major problem at all. It's just one minor thing. All these NPCs I interact with have personality, you know? And that is so much more important to me than any kind of like authenticity of a dialect or, you know, whatever, especially in a fantasy world. And here this guy is just telling me about the history of a faction. And in most other games, that would be like a big snooze fest. But he was making me interested in this bridge alliance, you know, just by the way he was talking about it, the passion invested in his voice, you know. And that makes a big difference to me. So I'm really impressed so far with how all of the side quests are written. It reminds me of, you know, what little I've experienced in the roughly 10 hours only that I've played of The Witcher 3, where the side quests and the NPCs in those side quests are really interesting and fleshed out, you know. So that's really encouraging. That's really encouraging as I think about the potential future I might have playing this game. Yeah, even with some of the, you know, lightly detectable budgetary limitations, this is totally conveying its world to me really effectively, and I really like this world. This is an intriguing side quest about a missing cabin boy who was said to have been kidnapped. Now, you know, I find a whole different side of the story, and I'm not sure what to believe until I can speak to the cabin boy, but they're keeping me from being able to talk to him, so hopefully there won't be a decision that I have to make about what I think of this situation without talking to the cabin boy. That would be frustrating to me. Hey. Okay, you guys get the rest of it. Oh man, I'm totally in here with bad guys. I'm running out of energy. Drink a potion. Here we go. I think magic potion is what does it. Okay. Are they all dead? Yeah! Good job, team! Man, that was a really interesting subplot with the cabin boy. I won't spoil how it resolved, but there was definitely two very different sides to that story. Nice. Oh, jeez! Oh, man. Is that everybody? Oof.
Things are about to get dicey.
Oh, I do wish I could rotate the camera during the tactical pause. That was something I always used to enjoy about Dragon Age. Get that bullet time stuff going on. Can't really do that, though. Now, this is confusing to me. I'm doing the side quest now, trying to prove that this guy selling a wonder elixir is a charlatan, as one of the ambassadors in the town thinks that he is. But looking at his materials, it looks like his notes are written by a legitimate alchemist. Now, maybe he stole those notes, I don't know, but for some reason he's not willing to drink his own formula. And so he's acting suspicious, but yet the documentation I found in his supplies looks to be created by a legitimate alchemist. So I'm chasing him down. I'm not sure what to make of this situation. This is the second side quest that kind of has me intrigued as to how it's going to end up. Wow, man, fascinating. It just, the impression I'm getting of the side quest so far is they just end up being a much more interesting than the premise that is initially presented to you. There's just a whole different side of the story, and that is so freaking cool. What a delight. And I've heard that that's how all the side quests are, and seeing two examples of it now just makes me want to see more of this world, interact with more of these characters, make decisions in what the consequences of these scenarios will be. I mean, this game really has me hooked just on the side quests and character interactions alone. And now I'm faced with like a real dilemma. You know, the situation with this potion seller is a lot more complex. I've been sent by the ambassador to arrest him, to expose him. And if I do that, the ambassador will help me, will help two innocent people escape the city. If I help the potion maker leave the city, then the ambassador might not help me with those other citizens. This potion maker is, he's not innocent. He's just not, I don't know if he's guilty enough to be arrested. This is great. This is great. It's a tough decision, but it's not artificially tough because I don't have enough information. I feel like I have enough information to make an educated decision. It's just a genuinely morally difficult decision to make. Other games will claim to give me morally difficult situations, but actually they are difficult only because they don't give me enough information about them. So this is, man, I'm really happy with this. Oh, does the game not pause when I'm looking at the map? It sure doesn't. Oh, crap. Not a fan of that. Yeah, there's lots of opportunities for looting. Not so much after combat, because there's not a ton of combat, but if you explore areas in the town, there's almost no end of, like, crates and barrels and chests to open up, as well as a number of chests that take advantage of the lockpicking skill, which I haven't paid for yet. And I'm pretty happy with the pace of upgrading, of finding new equipment that's more useful than the equipment I already have. I'm thinking maybe about every 30 minutes I've found at least one piece of equipment that is better than something I'm already carrying. Combat isn't super frequent. I feel like I can go 10, 15 minutes or more between rounds of instances of combat, at least in this opening city area. Yeah, that's a super cool resolution to that subplot. And the choices that I got were really interesting. You know, they gave me the option to to kind of like do what the ambassador wanted me to do, but not completely, and be dishonest with him so that I could still gain his favor and ultimately an actual favor from him, you know, for something else that I wanted done. So they're allowing me exactly what I want, and that is the ability to play multiple sides. You know, there are multiple factions in this game, and whenever there are more than, you know, factions against each other in games like Skyrim or whatever, I like to play both sides, or as many sides are available, for as long as possible, and just work the system as much as I can, work my relationships as much as I can, be a grand manipulator, tell all my companions kind of what they want to hear and stuff, until the very end when I reveal my true nature. And, you know, I'm disappointed that, you know, that the voice actor for this for my main character, and I assume it would be true for the male version as well, has to be so middle of the road. This was the case in Dragon Age Inquisition, where in order to fit with a number of different possible choices that the player can make throughout the game, they have to choose voice performances that are just kind of bland and middle of the road, so that they kind of equally fit with all or equally don't fit with all, you know? And that's a shame. That's one reason why I feel like you should not have a voiced protagonist in games like this, and, you know, just give them tons of dialogue options. You can do that when you don't have to have an actor record all these different, you know, dialogue choices, and in all these different ways and potential attitudes and stuff. You can make the character that you're playing sound in your head the way you want them to say. You can, as writers, give just a plethora, you know, of dialogue choices and tones and stuff like that, so that you can actually play the character much more closely to the way you want to play them. But when they voice the protagonist, they have to go this middle ground path that doesn't really, like, I really want her to sound much more sinister sometimes. I want to have more sinister tone options, you know, in my dialogue choices. So that continues to be a disappointment in this type of game, because they take this kind of route. Is it doing anything like worse than, say, Dragon Age Inquisition or Fallout 4? No, you know, it's on par with those. It's not making any bold improvements there, but I am very happy, I should say, with the nature of the choices and the way that I can kind of play both sides and stuff. So the choices themselves, even though the performance of them by my player character, you know, is disappointing, the choices themselves are really interesting ones, and that alone is really yeah, it's like I said, it's really got me hooked on this game already. What I'm not seeing so far is a variety of spells as a magic user. You know, you have these passive attributes you can pump points into, that this one says increases the power of all spells, but when I actually look at the skill tree, I see that I can, you know, gain the use of divine magic rings, which is kind of like the magic user's weapon type. But then it looks like mostly just passive increases. You get the 2 basic attacks, Shadow Missile and Shadow Impact. But then after that, let's see, we've got just, they do more damage. It increases the combo speed of one of them. Causes victims to lose their balance. Costs less magic energy. And then there's a lightning dash here that's more about dodging quickly. You know, so it looks like it's just those 2 basic offensive attacks. One that's kind of a light magic attack, and one that's more of a heavy magic attack. But as a magic user in a fantasy RPG, I want to have multiple spells, not just 2 spells that just kind of get more effective and have little effects added onto them. So I have to say I'm disappointed in that. Maybe there's something, maybe if I get a different type of magic ring, then other spell types will show up later in the game. I don't know. Otherwise, it's just like a basic ranged attack. And I feel like, well, they got guns, they got firearms, so what's the difference between, you know, it's just an aesthetic difference in that case.
We need roots! We must contain it!
Come now, let's lend them a hand.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, you lend them a hand. I'll go over here somewhere.
Keep my cousin safe!
Oh, crap. So I gotta do this by myself? Oh! I tried to... Let's see. Zappy! Dodgy! Oh, boy. He's big and scary. Oh! Oh, jeez! Oh, jeez! Very scary. Oh, boy! Oh, man, he's very intimidating. Okay, okay. Okay, I need potion time. I'm in serious trouble. Oh, good. Man alive. Oh, he got me. Oh my gosh! I was getting greedy. I was going in there to try and get him with my stronger attack. Oh, I got him down enough, I guess. She's looking much more confident than I feel. Alright. Can I carve any bits off of this guy? Been playing a lot of Monster Hunter. Yeah, I mean, as much as he got me down to low health, that was because I was being a little bit risky, and I knew I was being risky at times. And I also had a ton of health potions that I could have tapped into a whole lot more. But that was on easy difficulty. When he got in close, if I let him get in close for some of those bigger attacks, even on easy difficulty, if I hadn't been taking my healing potions and at least done a little bit to try and stay out of, you know, getting just repeated damage from him, then I would have died, you know. So easy mode is still not like a complete literal walk in the park. You're going to have to do a little bit now and then to stay alive. There is a reference to a memory crystal that if I get it at some point can allow me to redistribute all my skill points. I like that. I really appreciate that in an RPG. Hopefully it's not too pricey or rare, but they're mentioning it early enough that I'm thinking it should be pretty obtainable. Give me that title. Now's the shot. There we go. Look at that. Very nice. Man, there are so many crates and boxes and stuff to open up and get stuff out of. I mean, my gosh. It's great. I love it. It almost makes me feel like maybe I don't need to invest in lockpicking, but I can't resist. I gotta have it all. Boy, they also haven't gone out of their way to give me a crafting tutorial. I've been collecting a bunch of ingredients for stuff, and I do have some of the science skill, but they haven't really told me how to do that. And then digging through the game guide options, I finally see here listed under potions, you can also make potions at a crafting table, and then they show me the icon if you have the science talent. I don't know if there were no crafting tables in the opening starting city I was in, or if I just never saw them, but Hopefully there'll be something like that in this port town. Oh yeah, here's an entry on the crafting table. So that might be a useful tip, to just kind of look through your game guide notes. Because I certainly don't remember like a pop-up window at any time in the opening city saying, here's how you craft. Hopefully I can craft torches. Some of these rooms get really dark. And it's not something I can fix with brightness adjustments either. You know, a somewhat minor issue that affects exploration is that whenever you walk through a door, the door you open it and then it gets closed immediately behind you. And so when you're in a new area, especially if some of the areas look a little bit the same as some of these areas do, some of these rooms do, especially when you're walking through a building, if the door closes behind you, you can, at least I can, easily lose track of where I've been, especially if there are multiple doors in the same room. It's a minor issue. I've not done much backtracking, you know, or moving in circles because of that, but it's still, you know, something I wish was different. In the same way, sometimes in dialogue, when you're making your way through dialogue options in a number of role-playing games, once you've selected a dialogue option and heard that conversation point, then it will be grayed out so that you know that you've heard from that person on that topic already. But they don't do that in the dialogue in this game, so that's also just a minor quality of life thing. I'm so glad that you aren't like brought up on charges for stealing every time you loot some random crate. I know that adds to realism and stuff, but that's an aspect of realism I'm just not interested in. Just let me pick up stuff and add it to my inventory. Ooh, that was some cool music. Yeah, there's an interesting variety in the music. Sometimes it's more traditional and orchestral, and then sometimes it has this a little bit of an electronic or produced kind of quality to it. It's nice. It's just one more thing that adds to the freshness, the unusual quality of this world. Oh, here we go. In the darkest places, you can turn on your lantern. Oh, much better. Yeah, that is definitely going to be handy. But that was just buried in a menu somewhere. I don't remember any pop-up tutorial about that. Bad guys? That's what that music makes me think. Let's find out. Yes, bad guy. I guess I can swivel a camera just a little bit by selecting a different target to focus on, but man, I really want a free-roaming camera. Yeah, the combat is really, I mean, it locks. You can lock onto your enemies. It seems to auto-lock onto enemies. After playing Technomancer, I was concerned that, you know, the combat might be weird and clunky and difficult in this game. It's not, you know, especially dialed down to the easiest difficulty. I don't find it very interesting because, as I said before, I don't see any indication that there's going to be a greater spell variety, and so that's disappointing. I mean, I have no reason to think this is going to be kind of like the mage simulation RPG that I want, or the kind of experience that I have from a game like, say, the Dragon Age series, especially like Dragon Age Origins, or certainly nothing like Pillars of Eternity or Baldur's Gate, you know, which also have real-time with pause, but have a lot more spell variety for your dedicated magic user. And in this game, so far, over 5 hours in, it looks like being a magic user is just like, I don't know, just ranged attacker. I'm not even sure what the difference is between being a magic user and having a gun. I mean, I guess magic maybe cuts through armor or something, I don't know, but I really miss the variety of spells that I'm used to seeing in other games that allow you to be a dedicated magic user. You know, it's not that I want the combat to be more complex. That's not why I want a greater variety of spells. I just want a greater variety of spells because it's just, there's more fleshed out fantasy lore, you know, in that kind of thing. I just like variety in the spell effects visually, and then the effects they have on the enemy. On the plus side, you know, the combat is not going to be difficult for me, but it's also not going to be what I play this game for it. Probably at all. First impressions of enemy variety are also not strong. I'm just over 5 hours into the game. Admittedly, I take my time and, you know, really like to explore, but I've really just been fighting humans. And even now stepping out into the wilderness, the first combat I had was with more humans. So it seems like they really kind of put their time into the interactions with other characters, the non-violent interactions with characters, the side quests and stuff like that. But they really didn't prioritize fleshing out and enriching the combat experience with a lot of interesting facets and variety. Wow, looks like there's a lot going on here in terms of your ability to upgrade and customize your armor and to do some crafting. Looks like I still haven't unlocked hardly anything that I can do in that department, but it's good to know that it's there. Oh, there's some dialogue options disappeared after I used them, so that's kind of inconsistent. Man, I was just getting out of the city, and then I got to a camp where one of my companions had an optional quest I could take on, and I was like, oh, I guess I better do this, not realizing it was going to require me to return back to the city I just came out of and had been in for a while. And it's also a quest about going back and forth and talking to people, which, written well, very interesting. But I'm beginning to see what might be a potential weakness in my experience with this game, and that is, this game, the strongest parts are these side quests that almost always seem to involve talking with people. You know, maybe there'll be a little skirmish here and there, maybe not in some of them. So I think when I sit down to play this game, even though I enjoy the world, I'm gonna have to just expect to not get any of my itches scratched for combat. To just go into this expecting, okay, this is going to be about the character interactions, the choices I make, the unusual and interesting side quests. Okay, so I had to choose a dialogue choice with one of these guys that had nothing to do with the thing I'm investigating in order to unlock the conversation option that would lead me to somewhere in the investigation. That's a little non-intuitive. It's a bit like old JRPGs where it's like, yeah, if you want to progress the quest, you got to talk to this person over here, then go do something over here that seems unrelated, then go back and talk to that person again. You know, I like the progression of quests to be a little bit more intuitive than that. Crap, I'm lost. How do I get downstairs? Dang it. All right, geez. Can I jump off the roof? Because I'm not going to find the stinking stairs. Oh, there we go. Jeez. That was a little irritating. Well, enemies do respawn out in the wilderness areas, so that's nice to know that if I wanted to, I could level grind. Ooh, what are these things? Trouble!
We are arriving in my mother's village.
Oh, come on. Come on! No invisible wall. I could clearly get through there. Oh, I gotta go all the way around. Oh! Ow. Oh, I'm not good at this. Try again. Oh, man! Oof. Oops. Well, he didn't do hardly anything to me, though. Oh, man. Did I drink it? I didn't drink it. Yeah, there's this system in the combat about balance, like it being unbalanced, and I don't know, right now, it's probably because I'm on the easiest difficulty, but I mean, I would rather have something that's a little bit more fantastical if you're going to have mechanics like that can affect combat, you know, like elemental resistances, and which they might have. There's some reference to like elemental resistances in your armor. I just haven't seen any of that yet. And I certainly haven't seen anything about me being able to cast elemental spells like fire or ice or lightning and stuff like that, which is a real bummer. I'd rather have those kinds of elemental mechanics than like a mechanic about putting your foes off balance, you know? That's not really interesting to me. And not what I come to fantasy for. I mean, you could have a mechanic like that in a game that was not in a fantasy world. Whoa, what's she casting? Did I see her cast some kind of ice magic? Oh, geez, I want that magic.
I'm sorry for your loss.
But not really. That's her inner evil cackling wizard.
I don't want to die.
Don't answer! Siora!
Ooh, yeah, let's go dark, baby. Encourage her.
Need some help?
Yes, feel your anger. Oh gosh, here's a bad dialogue choice. I'm asking her... I should have saved right before this conversation. I'm asking her if, you know, why she mistook me as one of her people when we first met. And she gives an answer to that, and then my choices are ask her if this singular appearance makes you more attractive, and that could be a completely, you know, platonic kind of question, but it could also be like me initiating romance options. On the other hand, tell her that you find this resemblance unsettling. Well, I don't want to imply that the native people are ugly, and, you know, I don't like the fact that I would be considered to look by them. So, for all I know, my choices are insult her or romantically engage with her. Alright, I don't want to insult her because my motive is to manipulate her and use her however I want in my ultimate plans to take over the universe, and so I'm going to go with this one, but I really hope it doesn't start a romance here.
No, I understand. And I hope that this singular appearance makes me more attractive to you.
No! Alright, I'm going to go back and try that conversation again. Alright, so now I'm going to tell her that I find this resemblance unsettling.
No, but I find it unsettling. On the continent, everyone looked at me as if I was this strange beast. And here, people think that I'm a native, despite the fact that I know almost nothing of your culture.
I understand that it might be a strange experience, but you should wear these marks with pride.
Okay, so that was better, but, you know, those sample texts or whatever, still way too vague. There was no heart next to one option to show that it was a romance option, you know. This is the kind of crap that I dislike in this kind of dialogue system. Well, I've spent well over 5 hours with the game now. Usually I only play 5 before giving my final summary thoughts anyway. I'm definitely going to keep playing it. I'm enjoying the subplots enough, the side quests enough, the world enough, how it looks, how it sounds, exploring the world. I'm enjoying all those elements. What really is falling short for me is the magic system. It's just a generic range attack, basically, you know, and with slight variations. I may respec at some point and make like a technician, which can use like explosive traps and guns and stuff. That might scratch, ironically, my mage itch more than you being a pure magic user. I jumped online, and there's no indication that any new tier of magic skills is going to get unlocked, as can happen sometimes in games as you progress further into them. There seems to be no indications of that online anywhere. I can see myself potentially enjoying this more as a science guy, a rogue guy, where you can make a bunch of potions and poisons and things like that, and unlock chests and stuff. So I think I might go that route. It seems to be has much more for that kind of player who's into looting and crafting and stuff. There seems to be more going on in that department. Thematically, it looks like it's going to be at least touching on a few issues. I don't know that it's going to make any big, grand statements, certainly not surprising statements at this point. I mean, we'll see they're playing with themes of colonization and kind of riffing a little bit thematically, you know, taking inspiration from American colonization and what happened with the Native Americans and stuff. So there certainly could be some interesting things that they would say or do there. Maybe also some spiritual things as they're exploring, you know, these natives here have this kind of like nature or earth worship vibe to them. I haven't really gotten a sense of what they believe, but certainly seems like it could go in that direction. So I'm interested in seeing just kind of how they're going to play around with philosophical and moral and religious themes. I guess in summary, I would say it's not what I wanted and hoped it would be in some significant respects, but it's also surprising me in some nice ways with some things that I really am enjoying. And so for what it is, I am interested in continuing this experience. All right, well, those are all my thoughts for now. I'd love to get yours in the comments below, and then I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. It is time for Extra Life again, and I'd love for you to be a part of it with me. Here's a recycled but slightly modified promo to tell you more. Once again this year, Christian Geek Central is participating in Extra Life. This is a charity that raises funds for the Children's Miracle Network of Hospitals, which provides free medical care to children whose families could otherwise not afford it. And this is very often for critical, life-saving treatment. Joining our team only requires a willingness to ask your family and friends to consider donating toward your fundraising efforts. Participants also usually do something fun and game-related to draw attention to their fundraising efforts, like a special game night at your home or your church, or like me, you could do a crazy 24-hour video gaming marathon. Now, I'm theming it around video games, but really this event can be themed around any kind of gaming, which includes both video games and tabletop games of any kind. What you do to raise funds is entirely up to you, but I would love for you to consider joining the Christian Geek Central Extra Life team. As team leader, I'll be there to help answer your questions, provide some helpful tips if I can, and just in general be your fundraising cheerleader and try to draw attention myself to your fundraising efforts. You can get more information about the event as a whole at extra-life.org, and if you choose to sign up there, be sure to select Christian Geek Central as your team so I can get in touch with you and then just help in whatever way I can. Fundraising can begin at any time, but our main push is going to be through the month of October leading up to November 2nd. That's the annual Extra Life Game Day, when I'll be streaming my 24-hour video gaming marathon live and trying to stay awake without throwing up. More details on my live stream as we get closer to it. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.